Hey everybody, it's Monday morning. We got back last Monday, and I can tell you this, I was exhausted. Had things I needed to take care of here because winter's coming close, setting in. So I sort of neglected everything and tried to give a lot of thought to the 6 Smokies, how it affected me, and how the car worked out. So I can tell you this, until the very last run, the car was flawless. We had a transmission leak that you probably saw in one of the previous videos. We fixed it at Brainerd because the next day we had about it ended up being about 190 miles we drove on the next day. And it was dripping between the tailstock and the main body of the transmission pretty good. I mean, it was dripping pretty good, so we ended up knocking the tailstock off of it, which was easy because this thing's got a mid plate in the middle that I made out of a block saver. So we were able to just pull a crossmember, drive shaft crossmember out and shifter off of it, and knock the tailstock loose, clean it all up. I siliconed it. These things are glued together, they don't have gaskets. So we put a good bead of silicone on it and let that cure up pretty good before we bolted it back together, so we knew we were sealing up all the cracks, and it ended up working great. So that drive the next day was great. We went through the tail of the Dragon, ended up at Deals Gap. I think I showed a little bit of that stuff. And I'm going to apologize right now. I didn't supply as much content as I thought I might because it was so stressful, to be honest with you. Worrying about making it through the trip and not blowing the thing up on the racetrack. The first few days I was taking it pretty darn easy. Next to the last day, I made my best pass. I went 793. Turned the launch RPM up a little bit on that one, and I probably could have run 790s the whole time. I just didn't want to hurt it because it was unknown quantity. When I built this thing, I tried to use as many of the parts over that Danny had put in the thing as I could. Engine, I didn't want to use a transmission. It was a turbo 350, and personally I think turbo 350s are junk for drag racing. I know a lot of budget guys use them, and that's fine. I just choose not to do that. If I was going to do anything, it would have been a turbo 400 or one of the Power Glides. I have two aftermarket Power Glides that I could have put in it, but yeah, I didn't want to do that. That ain't no fun. In the beginning, when I started working on this thing, was to build a multi-purpose car, as you guys have seen, that I can put anything in it. I was gonna put a Liberty 4-speed in the thing when I run across this Doug Nash from Mark. I got the first one I got from Matt Daddis, and it was a 4-speed Doug Nash transmission. And the reason why they call them a 4-speed is because it's got 2 1-to-1s in it, because it was built and put in an NHRA Super Stocker, and they're only allowed 4 gears. So you have to put 1-to-1 in 4th and 1-to-1 in 5th. So wasn't quite what I was looking for, but the combined parts, it was a really good deal I couldn't pass up. The clutch is what I put in this car, a Ram Red Hat race clutch, adjustable clutch. I bought a spare thinking we'd need a spare. Didn't. It was freaking awesome. I set it like 2 turns in on base pressure. And then it had a bunch of counterweight in it because it was in a big block, high revving big block car. But that bit me in the butt on the last run, and the reason why I say that is I raised the launch RPM, like on the next to last run when I went 793, was 5,200 RPM. I was leaving at 44 previously, which was real low. The car was bogging like crazy, but I didn't want to break nothing. I was more concerned about finishing the race than anything else. Raised it to 5,200, the car went faster, ran better, but when I got to Huntsville, I decided I wanted to raise it up to 56 because it could have used a little more. But when I did that, the counterweight bit me in the butts, because when I revved it up like that, then it wanted to make the clutch lock up sooner because the RPM was higher. So in hindsight, if I'd have taken the counterweight off, and even if I'd have just taken put another turn of base in the clutch, it probably would have been a lot better. But You know, that's hindsight. I went 8:16, which actually was my worst run because it bogged so bad off the starting line. The car left good and then instantly bogged. And when you bog the motor like that, I mean, it loses a ton ET, a ton. So I was like 2/10 slow in 60, which made me run the 16. So, but we made it back. Like I said, the car was great until the last pass. We went to Huntsville that night. We got, you know, to our final checkpoint, which was the Space Museum, where you saw the shuttle and all that stuff. We made it there. Fantastic. We go to the motel and we decided we're going to meet Nick and Ricky Joe for dinner at a place called BJ's Brewhouse, which was 5 miles away. So we unhooked the trailer. There's a bunch of guys there in the parking lot hanging out drinking beers, so we knew the trailer was safe, so we just unhooked the trailer and dropped it in the parking lot and drove it to dinner. Well, about halfway there, the thing starts fouling plugs and acting stupid. So we got there, go to leave, it starts real hard. We make it back, but it's dropping cylinders, it's acting goofy. So we get back to the motel and decided we're going to put a set of plugs in it because we're thinking it's killing plugs. So what I ended up doing, throw a set of plugs in, started up, seemed to run great. Drove it to the track, it run great. We go to, well, they finally call gassers up. I think we're third out that day, the final day, and the thing starts really hard when I go up to the staging lanes and drive up there, get it warmed up, shut it off. Then the thing don't want to start. It sounds like it's completely flooded, and I know it's not. Well, I get out and look, and there's no fuel in the bowls, so I know it's out of fuel. So I go back in the back and start wiggling stuff, and the fuel pump in the tank starts running. So I know I got an issue there, but I get it still starts hard. Got it running finally. Sounded like it cleaned up. And made my run. Of course, it was slow, you know, it bogged, but it made it all the way down the track. Get down to the end of the track and it don't want to stay running. I make it back to the pits. We're done, you know. We finished the event, which is awesome. We load they won't let us bring the trailers inside the track, so we got to hook the trailer up, take it out to the truck. Again, starts hard to get it out there. Out there I just left it running and idling, and that was an issue I had the whole weekend. Is like controlling the idle was goofy. You know, we'd get in some places, and we drove through a bunch of cities, which was crazy, but it was fun. And it would idle at like 1,500 RPM, and then we get to the next stop and it idle at 900, you know. And I'm blaming a lot of that on the carburetor. It's got a brawler carburetor on it, and if I knew it was what it was, you know, when I put the thing together, I've got another quick fuel carburetor, which is a better race carb. This thing had adjustable air bleeds in it and everything. I thought it was okay, but in hindsight, when I pulled it apart, I started jetting it on the road, because it started out like that first day it was way rich. So I jetted it down 2 numbers front and rear, and it was a little better. The next stop I jetted it down another 2 numbers, and it got really good then. So, you know, the plugs were dark the first few days, and that's what I thought. Like that last day, is that I just killed the plugs earlier. So I mean, but it run fine the whole time. Gas mileage got a little bit better. I think we're in the beginning we were checking, it was like 9.5. And I think in the end we're about 10.5. But it doesn't have any jet extensions or notch float or nothing like that. And it's got a real low power valve in it, which I didn't check vacuum in the thing, so I didn't know, you know, where the power valve needed to be. But, and then I thought at one point, well, maybe we'd blown the power valve, but the car never backfired. And this thing should have a power valve check valve in it to keep from doing that. So I'm gonna have to figure out why it won't run. I brought it up here to the shop, and I had to roll it off the trailer because the thing wouldn't start. So it's got some sort of ignition issue. I know it's ignition because I pulled the plug out and the plugs are wet. They're not, it's like it's not firing, so I'll have to figure that one out, and I will share what I find in an upcoming video. I've talked to several people that say this MSD7L3s, they don't like running like that nonstop. And that last day was mostly highway driving, and we were running like 60 miles an hour, about 3,000 RPM for a couple hours, probably 3 hours, you know. Granted, we had some stoplights because it was all back roads, you know. The driving was impressive. The trip was fantastic. The scenery was beautiful, what I could see because I was steering so much. But the trip was great, you know. Thanks to Kenny. I mean, he was awesome. We struggled, both of us struggled, because we were both stressed out about making it. Hell, you know, we're 200 miles away from our pickup truck and trailer. This thing breaks down, and, you know, now what do we do? Especially on some of these roads where it's, you know, a 300-foot drop-off. You can't pull off the road. If you break down, you're stuck in the middle of the road. So, great trip. Fun times. Wouldn't trade it for $1 million, but I don't know that I would do one of this length again. I think that was too long, too many days on the road. So we got through it. Good times. But I'm going to show you some things here in this car. I had a customer ask about my A-pillar bar, so we're going to talk about that in a minute. But I'm going to show you a few things I've discovered. So nothing major, but I just want to show. So here goes. 900 plus miles. The springs settled a little bit. I'll show you this. As you can see, the drag link now is going uphill where it was parallel before, so the springs have settled about an inch and a half. So I'm going to re-shim that. I may just move the drag link to the top of the steering arm, the pitman arm on the box, and that may fix it all. So, but I don't want to change anything else. Got a drip on the ground. This thing was perfect until I pushed it off the trailer. So I don't know if it's the bottom radiator hose or the fitting I welded on. I tightened up the hoses, so we're going to see if that dries up. They were pretty loose. Headers, they got pretty lean. Headers didn't color bad. One of the tricks I want to show you here is every race I ran an engine diaper, but I didn't want to run it on the street to overheat oil, so I made these pieces here that are 3/4 inch flat stock, and I welded a chain link on the end. The reason why I did this is I wanted to take a carabiner style clip on my engine diaper, and you could just clip it right on here. It clipped right on that. And I've got one in the back. I don't know if you can see that one back there. I've got that one there, and I've got one on the front. So, okay. Here's the biggest problem we had. We're looking at the windshield. I put the original windshield back in this car. Man, was that a mistake. This thing is pitted on the inside, sandblasted on the outside, and it's all weld spattered up on the inside. And where we're driving driving west into the sun, you could not see anything out of this windshield. So I'm recommending to you guys, if you're doing this, put a brand new windshield in it. This sucked. This really sucked. So I'm going to change that up. I think this winter I get the opportunity to get past my yellow truck. I'm going to reskin the doors and rebuild the windows and everything. But I'll show you this. This is where we had a problem the last run, and I don't know why, but you can see this baby right here is melted. That's on it's the ground side of the plug, which is crazy. You know, why would the ground side of the plug melt other than it must have just been a goofy connection in that plug? So I'm gonna I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna butt connect them and heat shrink them together, because there's a plug down there that we can swap. That plug's okay. So dirt falling out of the trunk lid like crazy. Everything was good. I think I showed you guys that ignition system there, the temporary one I built. I tried it when we first put it together, and it worked. So required a timing change. But then I wanted to show you this. I had one of the viewers say, why'd you put your A-pillar bar back like that? Well, you do it for two reasons. You want to be able to weld it up in there. You gotta make, you see my finger, you gotta be able to make that weld, and you gotta be able to put that gusset in there. I don't put that in every one of them, but I did this one. So I'm gonna get in here and show you why I do that. Steering wheel up there. Slide my big old booty in the car. Here's why I do it. It's hidden behind the A-pillar. You can see out the windshield. You try to tuck this bar way up in here, and the bar's in the way. It makes the A-pillar real wide, so that's why I do that. Everything in here held up real good. That little plug there was our charging port, plus it's got a voltmeter in it. Since I could not find a voltmeter for the dash, I plugged that in there and we could tell it we were charging all the time. I put that aftermarket fuel gauge in there and that worked pretty good. It was off, but at least we knew where we were at fuel wise, so everything else seemed to work real well. My ignition panel, I think I showed you that. The only issue I had there is if I put the whole key ring in there with all the keys, it wanted to fall out. So what I did during the day is just take the key off the ring and put the key in itself. So, but wipers work good, lights work good. That's something else I wanted to talk about too. Headlights. I put the original headlights in this thing. Never should have done that. I should have put LEDs in it. Because when you're driving, it's nose up, so you're missing things, and those headlights were dimmer and shit. So we got in a jam on one of those turnarounds where we couldn't see nothing and almost drove this thing down in a ditch. Thank God we had some help to get out of there. And you'll notice my tack too. My shift light quit working, so I took the tack and turned it so this like 6,000 RPM mark was to the top. That way I could shift by the tack. I could see it over the top of the steering wheel, because I didn't want the tack up here blocking my vision. I sort of wanted it down in this car, and it worked out really well. So like I say, thing drove great, clutch worked great, tranny worked great. That thing is a little bit hard to downshift, but I mastered it. Figured out how to downshift a Vertigate in a Doug Nash with no synchros. That is something I would change. If I was doing this again, I would probably put a synchronized like Richmond 4+1 in it that had an overdrive so we could cut the engine RPM and drive at a little higher rate of speed. Probably put a big block in it. This little 337 was great, but I'm thinking it only makes about 400 horsepower. And I didn't need to go a whole lot faster to finish better than I did. I think I finished 8th. They've not posted the total points by class or total positions by class yet. I haven't even looked on the SICK website to see, but I'd have put a big block in it, and it wouldn't have taken a real big one. But I wanted to stay in B gas. B is like normally aspirated, ladder bars, no 4-links, rectangular tube frame, you know, more gasser. So Nick had to run an outlaw group because he had round tube chassis. So I don't know where he finished, but there was like several outlaw cars. And one of the things that frustrated me, and I mean it's okay because he's a draw. Finnegan, he raced an A, but he's got an ARM front end, you know. My thoughts in this stuff, if you got a gasser, it's got a straight axle on it. You know, I've made straight axle cars go a lot faster than his car's going. You know, they took the straight axle out because they said they couldn't make it work right, but I just think they had geometry and stuff wrong in the car. Didn't have a big enough axle in it, heavy duty enough parts. So when you run a 3,000 pound car, you really need like a 2.5 inch axle from WAC, or, you know, heavy wall axle. So, but anyways, that's my rambling. I wanted to share this with you, get this off my chest, let you know, like I say, windshield, replace it, brand new window. The radiator and the fan, the big fan was awesome. It got up to, I think it got to like 190 one time when we were pulling some of those real big hills, but typically it ran around 170. You know, and you know, honestly, that's not even hot. So 190, hell, most cars run at 210, 220 right now, so it wasn't bad at all. Worked fantastic. Noisy. I'd put better mufflers on it too. So that's all in the future. That's how she ended up. I wanted to share this. Thanks for watching, everybody.